All righty, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Red, White, Claret, and Blue Show. We continue to be your illustrious hosts. I am Alex Baquero, and this is Chris Nixon Six Condit, your American villain voices, as always, serving up the lukewarmiest of lukewarm opinions. Please go like, follow, rate, review, subscribe, all the places below our faces. This is not a World Cup preview, but we are repping at least one of my two nations today. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But before we get to all the stuff, Chris, how are you? How was Arizona?
I'm doing great. Arizona was great. As much fun as one can have working on the weekend. No offense to my colleagues that we had to go. But I did have a little bit of free time to spend some time in Scottsdale. It was very nice. I'm kind of a desert guy. I didn't know it, but I've been there twice now, and I've enjoyed it both times in different sections of the desert. It was a pleasant time. I had a great time. Good time seeing a lot of people that I know from the industry and from the company that we work with. And just a good time being spent in Scottsdale. It was great. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing all right. The Knicks are in the finals starting on Wednesday. It obviously starts in San Antonio, but I will be in New York to watch it, which I'm extremely excited about. Shouts out to Hanson, Jason, and Nicole, who are going to come meet me at a bar to watch. Still continue to be in awe of this past Villa season, and otherwise enjoyed a lovely weekend in North Carolina that you missed, Chris. It was beautiful on Saturday morning. I ran in an 8K pushing a stroller with Katie.
Nice.
Yeah, I've never run that far competitively in my entire life. So
I've never run that far, period, in my entire life.
There might be a reason for that.
Because nothing's chased me that far?
Yes. Are you a golfer?
No.
I actually don't think I know this about you.
Yeah. No, I tried it once, or not. I tried it. I shouldn't say once. I tried it, and I don't have the patience for it. So, fun fact about me, I'm a quitter. If I'm not like Andy Bernard said in The Office, Andy Bernard doesn't lose things; he quits them because they're unfair. And that is, if I'm not decent at something to start, I'm probably not going to keep going.
I wasn't sure if that might have been part of your joys of Arizona. I hear there's some good golf out there.
Some of the team did golf. No, I strolled around Old Town Scottsdale, which is just like a shopping and entertainment district. It was very nice because the heat is what they say about dry heat is very true. It can be deceptive in that you don't realize that you're actually extremely dehydrated. Because it doesn't feel as hot, so you do have to watch that.
So what you got Schwasty off a couple of Miller Lights? Is that what happened?
I had a few Miller High Lifes, yeah. We're mentioning names there, but yeah, I had a few, but no, obviously I was there for work purposes, so I wasn't going around getting bombed. That's not how I roll. So yeah. But yeah, we had a big old time. I would highly recommend, but no golf for me. Just my activities right now are pretty much chasing my kids around the yard and coaching baseball and stuff like that.
Yeah. Parenting's exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan so far.
Jeez. I'll leave that one there. Thankfully, Katie won't hear that.
It extends. Like I told you, we had some fun yesterday afternoon, and I will just say, waking up to parent at 6:30 a.m. this morning, made waking up at 6:30 a.m. this morning all the more of a struggle. And
yeah,
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah,
leave it at that. Chris, what was not a struggle? Well, actually, putting this rundown together was a bit of a struggle, but not Villa's season. So that's what we are here to do today. We are going to recap how we feel like Aston Villa performed over the course of the 25-26 season. We're actually going to, I went back and listened to all of it. We are going to revisit our predictions and see
you.
what we did. A little bit of spoiler. I'm pretty proud of how my preseason predictions turned out.
Yeah.
And then we'll maybe do a little touch on like what we're expecting for the offseason, but honestly, we'll have an offseason real in-depth primer in the coming weeks. So Chris, let's start right off the bat. Easy one. Rate this season, A through F. Letter grades.
I mean, I give it an A-, probably, just because there's a few things that I would like to have done differently, like not scored for the first 5 games of the season, and probably hung on to Daniel Malen. But we'll get into that later. But otherwise, how could you be unhappy with the result, given that the league was a little bit down? And that's the one thing everybody's going to say is that, Villa didn't have as many points as typically will get you 4th place. But that doesn't matter, because all you got to do is get to 4th place in the season that you need to get there. And they won a trophy. So that's off their back. A European trophy for the first time in 44 years, and a trophy for the first time in 30 years. So you can't be too mad about how the season went. So that's why I say A-. How about you?
Yeah, I say an A. A-. I think A- is fair. I would probably give it an A. And this brings in what we said was success at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And we said a trophy and getting Champions League was success. And so it's hard to say that on the balance of it, Villa didn't accomplish every single one of their objectives. Yep. And I'm giving this grade purely for on the field play. You talked about, like, I would prefer to not lose Daniel Malen. We'll discuss transfers in a second. But to finish 4th, win the Europa League, I mean, how is that anything other than unmitigated success? I agree with you that what keeps me from giving it an A+ is the simple fact that you and I both would have liked to go about it a little differently. The first 5 games, sure. The way that Villa have stumbled out of the season towards the tail end, certainly would have liked to play a little bit better there, maybe played a little bit more expansive in the middle, dominated
Smash Liverpool,
a little bit more. What?
Smash Liverpool, though.
Smash Liverpool. And then I would have loved to see us relegate Spurs, just take that game a little more seriously. So, like, there are a couple results here and there that I wish had gone a little bit differently. But again, 4th place in Europa League, like, you can't not give that some sort of an A grade. And I think you and I agree there.
Exactly right. Yep.
So actually, Chris, you know what? I'm going to bump one up now since we just started this. Let's rate Villa's transfers over the course of the last year. Count last summer and the winter, A through F. Basically, you're giving a grade to the transfer committee, I suppose.
Yeah. I'll probably go like a D+. It's pretty poor. Emi Buendia stayed in the team, so that doesn't count. Like, he came back from a loan, right? The other moves were Daniel Malen, who I love, and we loaned him out.
Made $500K on him, if that.
Yeah, Evan Gasson, who I think has a lot of potential, loaned him out. Victor Lindelof was a success. So that was good. Ross Barkley is good, but that's a role player.
Wasn't that last year?
That was season prior, wasn't it? Yeah. Never mind. He doesn't even count. So take him off. Yeah, so it's Victor Lindelof. Oh, and Marco Bizzo, right? Like, yep. So those 2 backup players, D+, right? That's how I get there.
Yeah, I gave it a D-. You didn't even talk about Douglas Luiz came back, did nothing. Leon Bailey came back, did nothing. And listen, I love both those guys. I love that their last moments in Aston Villa Claret and Blue will be them hoisting the Europa League trophy and then showing out against Man City. Like, that is a fitting bookend for those two players' Villa careers, and don't take me rating their transfers so poorly as representative of how I think that we should look back on their Villa tenure, but just this moment. Loan for Jadon Sancho, trash.
Oh, forgot about that.
Yeah. Evan Gasson, again, in, right out. Unai Emery didn't want him. We've got the curious case of spending $10 million on Brian Maggio, who can't even play for 2 more years.
Yep. Harvey Elliott
and the negotiations there. My God. Tammy Abraham spending $30 million on him to play 45 total collective minutes.
Yeah.
And how
got a couple of big goals though. He did.
How we wasted that kind of money. You could go back to some of the sales that you and I have questioned, like Enzo and Ashkin, and how promising those players seem to be, and we essentially sold them back out for peanuts. The transfer committee has a lot of work to do in its revamping, and you and I will maybe cover this a little bit more in our next episode, but I do wonder if we need to remove Unai Emery from the process a little bit, because if he is signing off on all these guys and then not using them, that's a huge issue.
Strange.
Or you need to bring him more in, but everything that we've read says that he is intimately involved in every single transfer selection, negotiation, all that kind of stuff. So something's got to change in the scouting, in the evaluation process, in forcing us to play players that we purchase. I don't know, but yeah, D-.
Yep. So we're pretty close on that as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's do a couple other awards on the season before we get back to our reviewing our preseason predictions. Chris, what would be your match of the season?
Oh, I mean, it's tough not to say the Europa League final, just because you win a trophy. So I'll go with that one, even though it's kind of a cheap answer. But I also like the Liverpool game was a great one. The City game was a great one. Like their last 3 after they rolled over for Spurs. And then I guess a fourth in the Forest game. Like they finished on a really high note. But outside of that, I'm trying to think. Like early on in the season, what game really got me jazzed up? Parts of the Arsenal game, but didn't we give that back for a draw late? If I remember right, did we not draw against Arsenal in the first leg?
Emi Buendia winner.
Oh, we got the winner. All right, so then that'd probably be the early game of the season.
That was my answer. Yeah. If you're not gonna say the Europa League final, which I agree with you is the only answer, but it also feels kind of like a cop-out.
Yeah.
If you want to just say like purely what was the most exciting game, you probably say the Sunderland match at the end of the season. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, I think it's got to be Arsenal, Emi Buendia winner. I feel like that was...
It was that goal that bounced around, or that ball bounced around, and then he...
Yeah, and Kamara, and then Emi kind of scoops it into the roof of the net. Yep. And that was the last kick of the game, I believe, as well. That was... First off, for me, at least, it was just an exciting day. Katie and I were on our baby moon. I wasn't going to wake up for the match, and we just kind of like did and decided to turn it on, which was a ton of fun. To watch it in our luxurious hotel room. But it was also the first time that I feel like I really started to think, oh, damn, we might be in a title race right now. And again, like you and I said in that moment, to say that we are in a title race then does not mean that we are going to compete for the title all year long, right? It just means that in this very moment, we are racing for the title. And that was an exciting conversation, an exciting run to be a part of. So that's definitely my match of the season.
Nice. Yeah. That's a good one too.
All right, Chris. Who was your most underrated Aston Villa player of the season?
Well, can I say Matty Cash? I don't know if he might be properly rated now because he started to get some of his flowers.
I think there were a lot of people saying throughout the year that he was our player of the season for 3/4 of it.
Like so that's why I hesitated to say it. Otherwise I'd probably go with Pau Torres, only because there's so large a group of people that would rather have Tyrone Mings, although I think that group is shrinking, but it still exists. And it's very clear that Villa are just better with Pau Torres for a multitude of reasons, both defensively and in attack. So I'll go with Pau then instead. What about you?
Yeah, this and the next question are really tough ones to answer, because I feel like so many guys had seasons that mirrored Aston Villa's season, in that there wasn't one consistently great performer from beginning to end of the year. A lot of guys had peaks and valleys that kind of coincided with Aston Villa's very high peaks and very low valleys. So a few guys that came to mind. Emi Buendia, did come in for a decent bit of criticism throughout the year, and I think that was people misunderstanding the role that he should have versus what he was forced to play as a result of Villa's transfer policy and injuries. But I think if I remember correctly, in Claret and Blue's wrap up to the season, they listed him as a potential player of the season. So I guess maybe he wasn't totally underrated, but I remember them talking a good bit of crap about him throughout the year when he had some missing performances. So Emi Buendia, I think, would be one that I would throw up there. Victor Lindelof, I guess, finally got his credit when we got to the Europa League semifinal, but for most of the year, I would say he was decently underrated as an option. Maybe I'll say Luka Dean.
That's fair.
He still had a decent year. Yes, his skills are diminishing, but ultimately fended off Ian Matson's competition for the left back role, like kind of made it his own.
Still whipping across, man.
Still whipping across. And no one really has spoken about him as like a crucial part of Aston Villa's success. So, did he have the best year? No, but I don't know. It's hard to denote underrated at this point, I guess. Chris, who are you giving Aston Villa's player of the season to?
I actually, it's between two for me. I'm going to go Emi Buendia. And it was between him and McGinn, with probably a third place to Matty Cash in my ballot. So I'm going to go Buendia mostly for his, I know he had that stretch for about 4 to 6 weeks where he played pretty poorly, or at least the results weren't there the way we wanted them to be. And he was struggling to hold the ball in the midfield and playing largely out of position. But boy, when we needed him, was he not an anchor in that midfield, and he played some of his best football in the biggest moments. So it's tight between him and McGinn, but I think that's where I'll land.
17 goal contributions in all competitions for Emi Buendia. 17.
Yeah.
For a guy that people don't think should be starting. Like, that's insane.
Yep.
That's truly insane. I wish that I had ranked it on over the course of the whole team, because Ollie and Morgan Rogers might have had more, and then that might be it. So I think that's a really great shout for Emi Buendia. That's kind of where my head went as well. I thought about McGinn. The problem is it's hard for me to label you player of the season when you missed as many games as he did due to his injury. I think that makes it hard to pick. Morgan Rogers, I think, blew so hot, but then ended the season so cold that it's hard. I know that it's hard to pick him. Emi Martinez statistically had a great year, but it's hard to deny that he certainly had some big errors that led to big opportunities for the team. Probably not up to his best. Matty Cash, I think, probably deserves either co-lead or a silver place medal, because it's not like he did poorly. by any stretch of the imagination when kind of that player of the season conversation started to wane. I think we got so used to him being week in, week out steady that there wasn't anything else to say about him at that point. And he's not a right back that's chipping in with a bunch of assists or,
Right.
goals or things like that. So like it's hard to statistically measure his performance. If you're going to say Emi Buendia, I think I'll say Matty Cash with maybe Pau Torres being my third choice.
And I mean, Matty Cash does get a fair amount of hockey assists, where it goes from him to another player to set up the goal, But yeah, I think I'm good with that as logic and reasoning. I'm good with that.
Okay. So Chris, summarize the season. This is a repeat of a question that we had to preview the season, but I think this is also a good way to end it. I want you to summarize the season in one word, and then we're going to summarize the off season to come in one word.
The season that we just had in one word. Success. That's the only thing I can go to because it's easy. Again, it's kind of a cop-out answer. But like we've talked about, if we had said at the beginning of the year, Villa were going to finish 4th and make Champions League by league position and also win a trophy of any sort, whatever it was going to be, Europa, FA Cup, EFL Cup, whatever, no one is going to say that that's a failure. Now, if you said that we weren't going to score for 5 games and still manage that becomes maybe a little more impressive, but also equal parts impressive and frustrating because you don't know what happens if you start off a little better and put a little more pressure on the teams at the top and things like that. But success, it was a success by any measure. And then for the off season, one word to describe this upcoming off season, I will say important. And the reason being, there's already obviously a lot of talk around Morgan Rogers and transfer and all that sort of stuff. So that's going to continue to come up. And who knows, he may end up going. We don't really know. There's a lot of chatter either way. But beyond that, now is an opportunity with Champions League coming. Villa are going to continue to be strapped for cash in terms of the transfer market. So the moves that are made in the transfer window have to hit if you're going to continue this run, because the squad is aging now at this point, and you can't keep running out the same 11 that you've run out for the last 5 years now, 6 years almost in a lot of their cases. This becomes the opportunity to try to bring in some new blood and hopefully actually bed them in and play them so that we can start to turn this roster over a little bit, because right now the roster is aging. And I don't like saying that coming off of the win in Europe and all that stuff, but the facts are facts.
So Chris, we work so well together. You just loft it up there and I just yam it home. My 2 words are connected in that the word for the season is bookend and the word for the off season is pivotal. This felt like the trophy, the qualifying for Champions League again, the age of the squad, the bringing Douglas Luiz and Leon Bailey back to get the trophy,
and
Tammy. It really felt like the bookend, the close of a chapter of kind of chapter 1, hopefully of many, of Unai Emery's tenure at Aston Villa. We've read countless articles this year about how he was really holding on to squeeze every last thing that he could get out of this group because he believed in them so much. He wasn't willing to sell Ollie Watkins to turn over the squad potentially the way that it needed because he felt like he could achieve something. And so I feel like getting that Europa League trophy now gives the organization the leeway to say goodbye to a lot of those guys, to Douglas Luiz, to Leon Bailey, to probably Tyrone Mings, to potentially Ollie Watkins. I don't think John McGinn will go, but you get my point. Maybe Luka Dean goes. Now they have the license to kind of turn that over a little bit because they got that trophy, and that's bought the goodwill to ultimately kind of revamp everything. And so that's why I say the offseason is pivotal, because you cannot continue to strike out in the transfer market getting D- grades every single offseason because you're selling guys on for $250,000 profit who are player of the season in Serie A.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have to find a spot for guys like that. And whether Villa continue to, I won't even say continue to ascend. They've ascended. They are now in the conversation amongst all the big clubs of England. You saw that with the report that came out of ESPN today on what are the big clubs in the top 5 leagues going to do in the transfer market. It was the original Big Six plus Aston Villa that they wrote about.
Yep.
So Villa are there. Are Villa going to solidify their spot amongst the elite of England, or are they going to drop back down a little bit? And I think that you really need to nail this offseason in terms of the comings and goings to make sure that Villa continue to maintain this stranglehold that they have on Europe through league position.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree.
All right, Chris, should we look back at how we did in our preseason preview?
Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Okay. So Chris, for Villa, most goals, we both said Ollie Watkins.
That's correct. Yeah.
He came on strong at the end to prove us right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we clarified EPL goals versus all competitions.
Versus all counts, but yeah, he was
regardless, we made it.
Goal scorer. That's right.
Yep. Most assists. I said Yuri Tielemans. I think I was wrong with that one. You said Morgan Rogers.
Yeah, well, you probably would have been right had Tielemans not missed a bunch of games because Tielemans, I think, was only 2 behind Rogers for at least in the league. So, but
the logic was sound, and I think I actually, if I didn't say this out loud in the preview pod, I definitely thought it. But because he played all last season without injury, I was expecting an injury from him this year, and it was whether he was going to stay fit or not. Did I say this out loud to you?
I don't remember. I think you may have. I mean, I think you definitely said it out loud to me at some point.
In life, maybe not on the pod.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So I guess I was half proven right on that one, but good ups to you on Morgan Rogers. So our next prediction, most valuable player, and want to clarify, we said this disclaimer. This is not the American version of most outstanding player. This was who is going to be most valuable to Aston Villa's success. Chris, we were both wrong with this one, I think.
Yeah.
You said Yuri Tielemans, definitely valuable, but I don't think that he was most valuable to Villa's success given the injury and all that kind of stuff. I said Ezri Konsa because I thought that Lamar Bogard was the only backup right center back that we could turn to. Who knew we had Rolls-Royce Victor Lindelof waiting in the wings there?
Who also played defensive midfield at the end of the season.
I think Konsa was valuable, but there were points in this year that he was just not at his usual best. So, Chris, actually, I'll ask you, who do you think was – we said player of the season, but that is more an outstanding metric. Who would you say was the most valuable player to Villa's success this year?
I think it's probably John McGinn.
I think so too.
That'd be, we've talked about it a bunch. His on and off the field, it's what he does with the club. He seems to, based on what I read and see, he seems to have a knack for knowing exactly when to loosen the guys up and when to let them know that it's time for business. He seems to have a really good handle on the pulse of the club.
Best goal scoring return at in all his years at Aston Villa as well.
That is true. Yes. Yeah. I mean, he had a fantastic year.
I would actually probably give a silver medal to Pau Torres because as the year wore on, my Ezri Konsa rationale, I feel like, actually applied to Pau Torres. in that the drop off in Villa's performance from Pau Torres to Tyrone Mings became incredibly apparent as the year went on.
Yep.
So certainly very valuable in that respect.
Yep.
Best newcomer, and we said you could define this however you wanted because there weren't a lot of newcomers to Aston Villa. I think we both were kind of right. Yeah. I cheated and said Emi Buendia's reintroduction to the squad was going to be the best newcomer. I think I was very much right in that respect. Yeah. And then you said Daniel Malen was really going to kick on, which he absolutely did until Aston Villa got rid of him.
Yeah. So I think that Daniel Malen actually was right.
Yeah.
And then Villa sold him to Serie A, where he just went and, will probably win player of the season, for Roma in the 3 months, 4 months that he was there, whatever, 5 months he was there. So, yeah, goes back to the D transfer window.
Yeah. Surprise of the season, you and I, again, you could define surprise however you wanted. You and I actually were very simpatico on this one, and we were right again. There was definitely a theme here in our preseason prediction. So you said right. Emi Buendia's impact on the squad, and I said I had the same thing, but I put my flag in the sand and I said 15 goal contributions, which he surpassed by 2.
I was saying you were right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he nearly got 15 in the league, didn't he? He got 6 goals. And
10?
No, only I'm sorry, he only got 8 in the league. 8 total.
Yeah. We kind of covered this earlier, so we'll go quickly through this one. At the end of the season, blank is success, blank is acceptable, blank is failure. I said top 6 is a success. Top 10 with a Europa League win would be acceptable, and 7th or below with no Europe would be a failure. And
that's the same thing I said.
It was basically what you said. And I think, luckily it was a success. Therefore, our A grades.
That's right.
Chris's word to describe the upcoming season was hopeful, which your hope was proved correct, but maybe not in every way that you thought. Your hope was that we would have dynamic attacking soccer because you thought we had this wealth, this glut of options across the front line between Malen, and Ali, and Rogers and Gasson. So
we did. We just sold 2 of them off.
Yeah. And yeah. So it was a big year. I wouldn't say that we saw really exciting dynamic attacking soccer for large portions of it. A lot of frustrating slow build up and attack through the middle. My word was pivotal. So I kind of recycled my word as I talked about this upcoming off season, but the reason was the same. Villa had a chance to solidify their financial stature. Obviously, if they fell short, they really could plummet out with the restrictions kind of circling around, and so they met the bar in every respect. Went far in their competition, earned maximum amount of revenue through it. Obviously, a ton of money through where they finished in the league. So it was pivotal, and they met the bar. Chris, I'm going to let you do a victory lap on this one. Villa will end the season by blank, and you said we will add a trophy.
And I was right. I don't remember if I said it would be. I don't think I said a specific trophy.
You didn't specify. You just said a trophy.
But I know that you and I talked about Unai Emery's history in the Europa League competition, so I felt good about his ability to manage that competition because he's done it so well in his history. And Villa performed extremely well in Champions League the year prior, right? So it was just, it seemed like a natural progression to me that they would be able to win Europa League. If there was one trophy that I thought they were going to win more likely than the others, that was going to be it. And I'm happy to have been right on that one.
Yeah.
And typical pessimist, Alex.
Lukewarm, Alex. I said will be the same as last year. A great year, not pessimistic, a great year, but ultimately just narrowly miss out on our targets. And I would say we narrowly achieved our targets, which I'm totally fine with. I was wrong. That is the one where you were right. I was able to pat myself on the back with a lot of these, and will continue as we get to the EPL, but not that one. All right, Chris.
I was right on this one too. Like that in terms of what was the most interesting thing to watch.
Yeah.
Not for the reason I thought it was, though.
Yeah, so that is essentially our Villa season recap. We did a long segment on predictions for the EPL, and honestly, I enjoy these even more than the Villa ones, just because I think you and I talk so much about Aston Villa, and we obviously follow so much Aston Villa. It's hard to differentiate our predictions and not kind of say versions of the same thing, as everybody who's listening to this can tell from how many we were alike on over there.
Yeah.
But I think when we talk about the wider EPL, this is where you and I start to really differ, and you see our different personalities and how we follow the sport, watch the game, follow the league. So for the EPL, what was one thing that you were interested in watching and following this year, Chris?
I said Spurs, and can Thomas Frank step up? Answer no. But they were extremely interesting to follow. I think they were one of the stories of the season. Very nearly being relegated, coming down to the final day. Again, not what I thought was going to be the reason they'd be interesting to watch, but they certainly were.
Yeah, I said Crystal Palace. I was curious whether they would step up after their trophy or not.
They won the Conference League.
They did win the Conference League, so they did add another trophy to their cabinet, back-to-back trophy years. Very interested to see what'll happen to Oliver Glasner now. Issues with the board, did not back him, and I think it's so insane that you got a manager of that quality who could take them as high as he did, win 2 trophies. Those are the first trophies that Crystal Palace have ever won in the history of their club. And you just let him go because you don't want to back him in the transfer market and just continually sell Eze and Wharton and Gahey and whoever for oodles of money. And he still keeps winning. He's kind of like Andoni Iraola in that respect. Somebody's going to get a very, very, very good manager, whoever he signs for next. I'm surprised he's not getting talked about in the same way as Iraola.
Right.
But
I mean, I don't know if he'd take it, but wouldn't Chelsea make a lot of sense?
Well, they already hired Alonso.
Oh, that's right. They did. I'm sorry. I forgot that. That happened like 2 weeks ago too. I forgot. Never mind.
But no, I do think that would be a good step.
Well, they'd certainly back him in the transfer window, wouldn't they? I mean, they'll just throw money at people until they can't. But anyway.
Yeah. Next question. Who's the one non-Villa newcomer to the league you'll have your eye on? We both said Gyökeres at Arsenal. Obviously knew their need for a striker. I was half right on why. I said that it wouldn't totally work out, but that it would also be Arteta's downfall. I would say that it did not work out for the money that they spent on him. He was at best fine, but I think for large parts of the season did not look up to it. But credit to Arsenal. I mean, certainly a weak chasing pack, but they did everything that they needed to see it out despite his shortcomings in front of goal.
Yeah, he really struggled to start the year, especially. He came on a little bit toward the middle end of the season, but still, it's not. I wonder how much of it is down to the manager along with Gyökeres, because it's not free flowing football where you're going to get him in a ton of attacking space and things like that. It's just not the way they play. So I think that I think obviously the season for Arsenal was a success, a huge success. They won the Premier League, right?
What was it?
Well, all right, not a huge. It was a success, huge. I'll back off.
I was going to say this is an interesting conversation that I think should be had, not by us because we are not Arsenal fans, and the wounds are too recent. But I would like to poll some Arsenal fans and see what they think honestly. If they're willing to be honest about it, we come humbly asking this question. A month and a half ago, you were hunting a quadruple.
Yeah, it's true.
You won your first league in 22 years. So, like, absolutely kudos to you. But
you embarrassed all of football in the Champions League final.
Chris, I was trying to come humbly to get some decent answers here, and you just ruined it. But no, like, I really am curious. Is this season an unmitigated success because you got the league? Or is there some lingering disappointment in the way you went out of those 3 other competitions and lost them?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Including the most recent one. That like,
Yeah.
I think it's fair to ask why you have 24.8% possession when you've spent that kind of money on a squad, even against a team as good as PSG. Like,
lowest percentage in a Champions League final. And by the way, Arsenal has spent more money than PSG. Yeah. By the way, their
lowest
net spend is,
percentage,
I think, 100 million pounds higher.
It's significant. PSG spends a lot of money too. Don't get me wrong, they do.
Yeah.
But the other team, do you know who's second lowest possession in a Champions League final?
Also Arsenal in 06-07, right?
Was it 06? I think whenever they forget that.
Was
final.
it the 06 final? Yeah,
something like that. But yeah, it's also Arsenal. It's Arsene Wenger's Arsenal.
But that team played 70 odd minutes with 10 men.
Yeah. It's totally different. Like it's. I just thought it was an interesting stat that they're 1-2. But no, that's not the pod we're doing. But you got my text on Saturday when I got to watch I got to watch the last 10 minutes of regular time, and then the added time in the shootout. Like, what a joke. I'll move on after this, but they completed 79 passes in the first half. 79. They attempted 110 passes in a half, and that squad cost them almost £1 billion. Get out of here. It's a joke. Move on.
All right, we will move on to our hottest takes in need of cold water. Chris, yours? So we approached this question differently, by the way. Yeah. You approached it as, what is the hottest take out there in the universe in need of cold water? Yeah. I gave you my hottest take that I needed you to douse cold water on.
Yeah, this was not my hottest take, because what I said was that Villa should have gone for Jack Grealish, because that was a take that was out there in the lead up to the season. And as well as Grealish played at Everton, and he did until he got hurt, it still would have been the wrong move for Aston Villa for a multitude of reasons. But I think I'm still right there.
Yeah, could Villa have used another number 10 winger? I don't think that we thought so at the time, but I think as the year wore on, certainly could have. But when did Jack get injured? In January?
He got injured in February, I think.
Yeah, he didn't play for half the season, and that was what we were concerned about after multiple years being out of it, as well as just his tactical fit. Mine, clearly wrong. Arteta will not be Arsenal manager in 26-27. Listen, had they collapsed and not won the league, I would have been right.
You might have been right. That's right.
I was a couple city draws away from being very right on this one. But you know what? I need to hold up my hand and say I did not get that one right. My backup also was that Jack should have left when Villa went down. And I stand by that. I think his career would have unfolded very differently.
Yeah, probably so. Yeah.
Chris, both nailed this one. Which club will take the biggest step forward?
I said United, and did not think it would play out that way, though. But they ended up third, so I was technically right.
Ended up third. They wound up with a plus 20-something point differential year over year. The next best team is not even close. I think it's 11.
Yeah.
So yeah, far and away the biggest step forward. Bravo to you, Chris. I'm very proud of you. I talked about Spurs, United, and Crystal Palace as three teams that ultimately, through league position, really underachieved last year. I spent a lot of time talking about United as an option, but ultimately I said Crystal Palace. Again, wrong. They actually wound up ending up a couple places lower, I believe.
But they won a trophy.
But they won another trophy. So they did kind of step forward in a way. Yeah. They moved into Europe and got a victory out of it. Chris,
boy, did I get this wrong though.
This is my turn to take a victory lap. Which club do you think will take the biggest step back? You said Newcastle. They did take a big step back.
Yeah.
But Liverpool.
Yep.
Liverpool.
Yep.
Dominated. Much as Man United had the highest points gained, and the next one wasn't even close. Liverpool had the most points dropped year over year, and it wasn't even close.
Manager.
And they fired their manager. And second best was Wolves, who finished dead last, or second worst. I don't know how you want to talk about that metric.
Yeah. No, you absolutely nailed that one, and
you laughed at me. You scoffed.
Well, I thought for the money they'd spent and the players they brought in, but yeah, no, that was a disaster, total disaster, and they got ripped to shreds by an Aston Villa team that can't score, or struggles to score at least.
I also gave a couple backups for this one that I'm pretty happy with. I said Brentford and Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest obviously take a huge step back from 7th to fighting relegation. And Brentford had a good year, technically 3 points worse off than they finished under Thomas Frank in the end.
Yeah.
So
that's the club that Villa should aspire to be, by the way, Brentford.
I thought it was Brighton.
Them too. Both.
Oh, okay.
Like just two teams that are never in Europe, never finished higher than 6th. That's who we should aspire to be.
Predicted top 6 this Chris. I don't even know if we both got this one real bad.
Terribly wrong.
Yeah.
I'll just go through mine real quick. Liverpool, very wrong. Arsenal, 2nd. So, they finished 1st.
Oh.
Chelsea, nope. City, Villa 5th. Crystal Palace 6th. So I got 3 of the top 5. I'm sorry, 4 of the top 5 in there, none of them in the correct place. So not bad.
Yeah, I had City, Chelsea. I clearly had too much faith in the way that Chelsea looked against PSG in the Club World Cup final.
Yeah, sure.
And the hangover, I think, of the victory that I had last year when I said that Chelsea were just they had too many good players on the roster to not figure it out. As
it turns out, they don't. They have too many players. Yes, but
they did last year. But your chastising to me of that it would all fall apart as a Frankenstein thing just came 1 year late. Liverpool, Arsenal, again, my prediction about Mikel Arteta and Gyökeres not really working out. I had Crystal Palace / Brighton in 5th, and then Aston Villa in 6th. So I did
both of us
pretty
were very, very wrong on this one. Yeah.
Brighton did okay. They were up in the mix for a little bit. Just wrong B club. Bournemouth was who we both did not mention and probably should have. Chris, anything you want to say on like the EPL season?
I thought that it was a fairly entertaining season. I mean, anytime that you've got Arsenal and City, and it didn't quite come down to the final day, but City really did make a run at it toward the end there. And it looked for a minute like Arsenal were going to lose all 4 of the quad, or at least need Champions League, going into the Champions League final to win something. And for them, they're fortunate that they weren't, and they did close out the season much more strongly than they had in years past. So I guess that monkey might be off their back. At the bottom was probably more interesting with West Ham and Tottenham and everybody below Tottenham playing so well that Tottenham couldn't get any space until the last day. So, I mean, when I was at the pub on the last day, I was much more interested in watching the Spurs game and West Ham's game than I was watching Villa's game against Man City because of what was happening at the bottom of the table. So I thought by and large it was an entertaining year. I'm going to be interested to see what, if anything, changes in terms of how corner kicks and free kicks are officiated and time wasting is officiated, because that's become such a huge part of the game, and not just Arsenal, although they are the poster child for it. But it's getting to the point that you can see fans like tracking how long the ball is out of play, and realizing that sometimes there's less than 60 minutes of actual game action in a 90-minute game, because there's so much time spent wasting it. So I think that we may see some proposed changes with the way things go. And I think that the Champions League final actually may have kind of set that change up. The big call at halftime where Arsenal weren't allowed to take a corner because they'd wasted so much time in the lead up to the throw in and the previous throw in and the corner. I think that I would like to see referees do that sort of thing more often. You don't get a corner just because you won it if you wasted 45 seconds getting to it and then wasted another 30 setting it up. Get out of here, go to halftime. And as the referee in the Champions League screamed at the Arsenal players, stop wasting time. So I think that's going to be an interesting change, because ultimately this is entertainment, right? And nobody wants to watch a bunch of wrestling in the box and time wasting around corner kicks and throw-ins and set pieces. I think that you may see like a pushback a la what MLB has done to speed up the game with a pitch clock and shorten sequences and things like that. So I think that in today's day and age, in a social media world, if you as an organization are not considering how you can grab more eyeballs, you're failing. And so I think the Premier League, while things have never been better from a financial standpoint, the Premier League really does need to look at the on-field product and ask, is this the best product that we can put out?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It was definitely one of the more exciting title races that we've had since the Jurgen Klopp Pep, both getting 90 plus 100 point seasons. And after a couple down years of not really having a title race, this was really nice and refreshing. Agree with you about the bottom. The only thing that I'll add is that the league was so compressed that the race for all the European positions was really fascinating.
Yeah.
Seeing Bournemouth push up through there, as of 3 weeks ago, Everton was in a shout of a Champions League spot. So it really kept everyone on their toes. I thought that was really interesting and fascinating. We saw the rise of a number of really exciting young players, Junior Krupi at Bournemouth being a prime example of that. To your point about wrestling and time wasting and all that kind of stuff. So supposedly reports come out today that during the World Cup, they are going to strictly enforce wrestling in the box and take away corners, let the ball go the other way. And this is something that's going to be trialed in the World Cup with the intention to unveil it in all leagues moving forward at the beginning of next season, due to supposedly it's called the Arsenal rule, essentially to kind of limit the wrestling that they do with the goalkeeper and all that kind of stuff. It'll be really interesting to see whether that's actually enforced, or do they do it for kind of like a game and then forget about it?
Yeah.
I am very much an advocate for, I think Mark Clattenburg proposed this rule that if you take too long, the ball just goes the other way. So if you take too long to take the corner, it becomes a goal kick. If the goalie's delaying with the goal kick, it becomes a corner.
Yeah.
So what? Same thing with throw-ins. It'll just immediately go the other way. I like that. This is also probably a hot take that we'll get slammed for, but I'm not wholly opposed to the proposal that I think was trialed somewhere in the Netherlands of a 60-minute game with stopped clocks at every time the ball goes out and when there's a foul and things of that sort. So kind of more of like a basketball type situation.
Yeah. I don't think they'll ever go
we're
to
only
that.
seeing 55 minutes anyway. Like, what does it matter whether there's a stop clock or we let the thing run up to 90? Like, who cares? It's still taking the same amount of time. So I would advocate for either one of those to be thrown in as well.
Mm.
The last thing that I'll say is this year we saw the departure of Pep Guardiola, probably the most successful manager in this league's history. And so it really leaves open what is going to happen in the coming years at the top of the table. Is Enzo Maresca, who I think most Chelsea players respected, you heard them talk in the Liam Rosenior weeks, the Liam Rosenior weeks about how they missed having the tactical plan of Maresca. He was only really let go because he was already flirting with City. So does he pick up right where Pep left off? Can Xabi Alonso turn around this Chelsea club that seems hell-bent on not winning and just somehow spending a ton of money and inexplicably being able to turn a profit? Iraola, rumored to take over the Liverpool job. Can he fix that? Frankenstein monster. How do Spurs fix what they're going through with someone that we really rate in Roberto De Zerbi? There could be a little bit of an Arsenal dynasty starting. I think if they can invest correctly, if Arteta can loosen the reins a little bit, and I know it's potentially unlikely, but if he does, there is a power vacuum at the top of the Premier League. And so whether Arsenal step into that role as the dominant force in the league, or whether from all this cluster underneath a couple other challengers rise, I think this year kind of puts a close on probably one Premier League era for another one to begin.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Well said.
Thank you. So that's it. We've got a couple fun episodes planned coming up. We've got an early preview of Villa's offseason, and next year Chris will do his financials. We're reaching out to some people to hopefully get some interviews going for this summer. And the World Cup. We do not have a plan for what we're going to do to cover the World Cup. Chris and I are going to need to talk about this offline, as they say. So, hey, slide tackle into those comment sections, slide tackle into our DMs. Let us know what you want to hear. Do you want to hear general overviews of the matches, of the different teams? Do you want Villa performance roundup in how they've done in their different matches? Let us know. We are the Red, White, Claret, and Blue podcast, so there probably will be a touch of following the USMNT for all three of their games until they're summarily bounced. But but we will figure out how to keep the content rolling even into the knockout phases. Chris, any last things to add, my friend?
I've got nothing for this one now.
All right. Well, in that case, we put our bookend on the 25-26 season. And as always, we say up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Hi, Mom and Dad.